Hey everyone, we're talking about double box plots today. Now this is building off of what you learned yesterday, which was just the single box plot. Remember, so far you've just had the one and you've answered questions and pulled numbers out of that. Well, today you're just going to see another box plot right on top of it in this double, it's what we call double box plots, and you're going to have to compare and contrast, analyze information. If you understood single box plots, you're basically going to just apply all that information. It's not going to be that much different. So just follow along with your notes. Remember, you can always refer back to the video, pause and rewind and fast forward as you need. Okay. Our warm-up today is going to be important because it's going to be a review of just single box plots. Let's practice off of Mrs. Sanchez's first period math quiz results. They've represented it as a box plot, and we're going to pull out all this information. Remember, minimum, maximum, median, Q1 and Q3, and the ranges. So let's get that information from here. The minimum would be that point at the beginning. That seems to be right at 20. The maximum is right there, and it's not exactly on a number, but it's in between 90 and 100 and closer to 90. I would say that's 92. Okay, we don't have to be exact here. If you think that's 93, that would be fine. All right, the median. Remember that the median is this line that's inside of the box. That looks to be also between 60 and 70, but closer to 60. I'd go with 62. Why not? All right, now Q1, which means quartile 1, right there, that looks to be at 30. Q3 is right there. That's the end of the box. That looks to be right at 70. All right, the interquartile range. Remember that the word range means the difference between the highest and the lowest. So we are focused, when it says interquartile range, we're focused on the range of the box part of the graph. So we're going to take our Q3, which was 70, minus our Q1, which was at 30, and do 70 minus 30, giving us 40. That is the interquartile range. As opposed to the overall range, that means we're not just focusing on the box or the quartiles, we're focusing on the graph as a whole. The very extremes, the maximum and the minimum, well, what's the difference between those two? That is, well, what numbers had we chosen? We chose that the maximum was 92 and the minimum was 20. So that is a difference of, well, 92 minus 20 is going to be 72. And there you go. That's how you pull out all this information. You need to know what all of these words mean and how to get them, because we're about to move on to double box plots. So the objective today is to use the prior knowledge about single box plots, everything that you already know. We're going to use that to compare and interpret the double box plots. All right, here's example number 1. This is a box plot that depicts, I guess, heights of players on two separate sports teams, right? The Knicks and the Nets. And normally this is how you would see it. You would see the box plots stacked one on top of each other. The number line applies to both of them. On a STAR test or test question, these would normally be multiple choice. But just to practice pulling the important numbers out, I have it here in a list, and we're going to come up with these numbers. So let's just focus on them one team at a time. So we're just going to look at the Knicks right now. So only pay attention to that box plot for now. And let's figure out the numbers. Minimum. Minimum is right there. That seems to be at 74. And that's 74 inches, by the way, because this number line represents height in inches. All right, the maximum seems to be at 83. The median, remember that's this line, that is at 80. Quartile 1, remember that that is this line, that's at 76. It's always easy when they're right on the number. Quartile 3, right there, that's on 81. Now the interquartile range. Okay, here's where we have to calculate. Remember, interquartile range is where we're just focused on the quartile, the box part of the graph. And we're going to do Q3 minus Q1. 81 minus 76, right? 81 minus 76, which is 5. So the interquartile range is 5 inches. And then the range, that's referring to the whole graph, the graph as a whole. What's the range? The difference between the highest and the lowest value. That is, what was that? 83 minus 74. That would be 9. Okay, so I hope you got the same numbers as me. Rewatch this part of the video if you need to just play it back slower, and if you miss something, you can always rewatch. All right, why don't you, I'd suggest pausing the video and trying out all the numbers for the New York Nets all by yourself, and then you could compare with what I come up with. Okay, the New York Nets, the minimum height is 72. The maximum height is 84. The median height is at 79. Quartile 1, quartile 1 right there, is at 75. Quartile 3 right there is at 82. 82. The interquartile range, that means just the range of the box portion, that's going to be 82 minus 75, right? 82 minus 75, that's 7. And then the range, that means the range of the overall graph from one end to the other, maximum minus minimum. 84 minus 72. 84 minus 72, that is 12. All right, hope you got the same answers as me. Okay, moving on, we've got another double bar graph. Label the 5 key numbers on each graph. The 5 key numbers are the minimum, maximum, median, Q1, and Q3. Okay, I guess we're not doing range here for this one. So I want you to name these, or label those 5 terms on these graphs. So we could just write on the graph itself. Corner Creamery, the daily number of customers. This would be the minimum. And the maximum number of customers, that would be right there, maximum. The median would be right there. The quartile 1, Q1, would be right there, right, the beginning of the box, and quartile 3 is right here. There you go. So instead of writing them as a list, we're labeling on top of the graph. Why don't you do the exact same thing for Sue's ice cream and compare it with me? Pause the video, try it by yourself, and then compare with me. All right, here's our minimum. Here's our maximum. I'm going to put the median in yellow, quartile 1 in purple to match with the other one, and quartile 3 for green. Okay, so Q1, Q3, median, and that's it. This is good practice, guys. If you can do this, What this is leading up to is that you should be able to answer style questions. On the STAR test, they're going to be in multiple choice format. Questions that look like this. You're going to have a double bar graph and something like which is the best comparison, or which statement is true, which statement is false, things like that. You need to just be aware, you need to know what all those terms are because they're going to be used right here in your answer choices. Okay, so let's first, I would always suggest when you have one of these questions, spend a minute just looking at the graph itself and figuring out what it's about before you jump to the question. Alright, so okay, this seems to be a double bar graph. Okay, it's test scores. Look at all the labels and stuff. So the top is first period, that's the first period graph, and then they're comparing with third period. Alright, so it's test scores between two different class periods basically. Now that you understand that, go to the question. Which of the following is the best comparison? We need to read all four and figure that out. A. Both the range and the median test score are greater for first period than for third period. Okay, so first they're saying that the median test score, all right, let's start marking some stuff. The median test score for first period is greater than third period. No, that's not true. The median, we haven't even gotten to the range yet, but the median is not greater, it's less. So it would not be A. All right, moving on. B. The range is greater for the third period class, while the median test score is greater for the first period. All right, let's take it. When they're putting two things in one sentence, we need to take it one at a time. It says the range is greater for third period. Is that true? So let's look at third period. They're saying that the range is greater. No, that's not true. First period seems to have a wider spread, right? The graph is wider apart. So I would say that part of the statement is already not true, making this false. B is not right either. All right, let's go to C. The range is the same for both classes. There's more to this. While the median is greater, blah, blah, blah. Actually, let's just focus on one piece at a time. The range is the same for both classes? Didn't we just address the fact that that's not true? The range seems to be greater for first period since they start off at a lower point and end at a higher point. It's a wider spread. So this part is not true, meaning that whole statement is not true. Let's look at D. It's kind of has to be our answer, but let's double check. The range is greater for first period. Yes, that's true. We were just talking about this, right? First period has a greater range. While the median test score is greater for third period. Let's just double check about the median. Oops. The median is greater for third period. So there it is. Let's compare the medians. Yes, that's true as well. Both parts of this sentence are true. Our answer is D. This is an example. This is a STAR question from previous year, so perfect example of something that you should anticipate. And you notice, guys, it didn't ask us, right? It didn't give us a list of what is the range or what's the minimum. That would be too simple. You need to know those terms, but then apply it to one of these statements and then figure out what the answer would be. Okay, another STAR style question. This one's an exit ticket for you. If you can get this right, that means you kind of understand everything from today's lesson. So why don't you pause the video and try it by yourself and then compare with me. Okay, the box plots compare the quiz scores of two math classes. First, look at the graphs itself, read the labels so that you know what's going on. So these are scores comparing second period and first period. All right, we know what's going on. And now we go to the question. Which statement does not correctly compare? So we want the false statement. Y'all make sure you read carefully and slowly and know what you're looking for. Okay, they bolded that term not. So we're looking for the wrong statement. All right, A. The interquartile range is the same for both classes. Is that true? The interquartile range. That means if we subtract the, let's see, so for second period here, it would be 16 minus 9. So that's what? That's 7. And then for first period, that's going to be 17 minus 10. So that would also be 7. Okay, the interquartile range is the same for both classes. This is true. But remember, we are looking for the false statement, so we don't want A. All right, B. The lowest score for second period is less than the lowest score for first period. Let's see. The lowest score for second period is less than the lowest score for first period. False. The lowest score for, hang on, no, that's not true. Oh, there you go. I made an example of how you can misread. The lowest score for first period, that is a 6. Compared to the lowest score for second period was a 6. The lowest score for first period is an 8. And they're saying that the second period lowest score is less. Yeah, this is true. So we don't want this either. We still haven't found the false statement. All right. C. The range is the same for both classes. All right. Range means we're finding the difference between the two endpoints, right? The extremes. So that would be, what does that look like? 19 minus 6, which is 7. And this one's going to be 20 minus 8, which is 12. No, the range is not the same. So this would be our false answer. All right. Maybe we should double check that D is definitely not an answer as well. Let's just look at that. The median for second period is greater than the median for first period. Let's look. The median for second period is greater than the first period median. That's true. And we did not want the true statement. All right, so we're 100% sure that it is C. That is how you answer a double box plot star style questions. Your homework tonight is going to be a little more practice of the same. Come back to me if you have more questions, and I'd be glad to help you. All right, see you next time.